Because most of the things we embark on, we don't even make enough progress in it to even quit it. The thing is, when we choose to quit something old, we automatically create space for several new things. We can work with a framework that I formulated. Just call it the ABC that you need to look at when you want to decide to change your mind on a project.
So welcome back to the Execution Edge podcast. Today we are joined by a special guest whose work I personally respect and deeply have gained a lot of value from. And I'm excited about this conversation. And I know you all listening, wherever you are going to gain a lot from it. Joining me today is no other person than Mr. Paul Princewill.
Yes, thank you, Godswill. And people usually would say I'm excited to be here. I don't know if I am excited to be here.
I am excited.
All I do is I just want to have a conversation, and when I'm done, I want to go and eat.
Oh, eat. All right,
Yeah.
cool. All right, before we go into the conversation, I just want to talk about how we met. It's all about being creative in this industry that we are all in, and you being a brand strategist and me being a graphic designer. I remember we meeting online and just getting to work together over some clients that we have back then. And it's excited that friendship and that collaboration has brought us together to talk about something that both of us at sometimes have faced, and not just both of us, but creatives in general. So I really want to dive right into the topic, which we have come up with, that you don't have to finish what you started. Okay? And I really want to start off by asking you this first question. Why are we discussing this? Why is it important? Why this topic in particular?
So, beautiful start. This topic came from the idea. It's not just a topic, it's a principle which I constantly remind myself of. And that's because the popular opinion out there is that you have to always finish what you start. You would even hear motivational speakers say, finish what you start. That is the popular idea. But when we take that idea as the only option, we limit ourselves from certain things that we should do instead. We limit our potentials that we should have had because we are clinging on to something that isn't working because we were told that we have to always finish what we start. And the reason why that belief is so strong is that our judgment is usually clouded by what is called the halfway bias. So it's a psychological bias. Let me illustrate it this way. You've seen a movie before, right? You've gone to the cinema.
Of course.
So if you were to pay for a movie with a friend and the duration is 2 hours, let's say you paid about 10,000 naira per ticket. That should be roughly $10, less than $10 even, let's say $8 a ticket. 30 minutes into the movie, you are with this friend. You guys went out so you could have a good time. 30 minutes into the movie, you and your friend realize that this movie is so boring. Like, not just you and your friend, everybody in the audience knows that this movie is so boring. Everybody is disappointed. But it's just 30 minutes into the movie. You have 1 hour, 30 minutes left. Now you have two options. You and your friend could either get up and walk out and let go of that 1 hour, 30 minutes and the money you paid, because there are no refunds, obviously. Or you could sit through the entire movie and just sit to the end, because you've already paid in full. Godswill, what do you think is the default option people would take?
Personally, I think I would just sit there and just maybe see how it ends. Even though I already know, it's kind of wasting my own time purposefully.
So I like that you mentioned even though you already know. And that's why it's called a bias. So psychologically, there are several biases that we have. They are more like fallacies. Another word for bias and fallacy, which is it goes against actual logic, but we still continue. And like you answered, the default response is usually, I have to sit through the movie. Why? Because you already started. You've already gone halfway into the movie. That is why it's called the halfway bias. The tendency to not want to quit something because we've gone halfway into it. Of course, we use this for good, especially if you are a designer. You will usually see websites and platforms that they want to get you halfway in. They give you 7 days free trial, 1 month free trial. You see that a lot, right, Godswill?
Yes, I do.
Beautiful. And sometimes some of these platforms, during that process of working there for 1 month, you've put in your content or whatever work you are putting in, such that when you want to leave, it now becomes difficult because you feel like you already started with it, you already built it. So it's hard to leave. So designers use that. But then again, it can also bring us to a disadvantage. The real logical decision should be to walk out of that movie. Why? There is no way we can get that 10,000 naira back. It is gone. But there is something else we can still get back. 1 hour, 30 minutes of our time. You can still use that 1 hour, 30 minutes of your time with that friend you went out with, and you guys will have a great time. You guys will go home and have a memorable day. You won't go home upset about the movie. You get to save your entire day. You get to save 1 hour, 30 minutes. Yes, the 10,000 naira is lost, but sitting through the movie will not bring that 10,000 naira back. But if you and your friend were to stick to that mindset of, we started this, we have to finish it, you would lose that opportunity to do something worthwhile with that 1 hour, 30 minutes. So this discussion is important because every creative out there and whoever is listening to this podcast needs to make certain decisions that will move their career forward. And you won't be able to make those important decisions if you are always telling yourself that everything you start, you must finish. And that is why we are here on this discussion.
All right, that is so clear and fantastic. So I'm thinking, as you're talking, there are some of the things we are trying to work on. At one point, we tend to see the end, and I'm just thinking, looking through my own career, there's some path or maybe some strategy I've tried to implement on me as a graphic designer, as a business person, that I see other people implementing this style, and I can see that it's not working, or probably I've tried it out and it's not working. So what you're trying to say here now is we should save the time, and instead of trying to go all in and see if it will work, it's like, oh, you already know the end, why don't you just refocus your attention, or maybe probably pivot to something else. So I really get that correctly. So I really want to ask you another question. Say, what does this mean, okay, in terms of everything? Should we quit every time we see this time wasted, or we see the opportunity that we are working on is going to close? Does it mean that this principle is going to be applied to everything? Should we quit everything anytime we see this roadblock or setback in in the things that we're trying to achieve?
Let me start with addressing the last thing you mentioned and then use that to segue into answering this question. The idea of not finishing what you start does not necessarily mean when things are not working, when something is not working, you have to quit. The difference is, in that illustration I used, there is no possibility within the next 1 hour, 30 minutes. Of course, it's an hypothetical situation. There are actually some movies that somewhere in towards the end of the movie, it gets better. So we will talk more about this as we progress. But let me go over to the question. Should we quit everything when it's not working? No. There are some things we have to hold on to for different reasons. When I got into school, when I got into university, it was a 2 years program. And by the final semester, I had already lost interest. I wanted to start a business. I didn't want to get a job anymore. And the certificate I was pursuing was no longer relevant to me. I was reading business books. I wasn't attending classes at all. As a matter of fact, my friend who also reads books with me at that point had already dropped out. I was only thinking about it. He himself dropped out. Because the people we looked up to, they dropped out from school. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and the rest. At that point, I had a decision to make. Should I drop out and focus on what matters to me now, since this direction is no longer what I want, or should I continue? Well, guess what? I continued. I finished what I started.
Great.
Why? I thought about my mom. I thought about how I'm the first one for my family. So she invested so much into my education, and she wanted to see me at least finish my tertiary education. And I thought about her, and the thought of how much effort she has put into it made me want to finish. And I finished what I started. Why? Because of the people that I care about. Of course, it's not always a case where even when there are people where you care about are at stake, even when they are at stake, there are still sometimes you would have to quit. But it is also benevolent to consider people you care about when you want to quit something. The second thing is there might actually still be some gains if you do continue. For example, in that case of quitting school, I thought about the fact that at the end of the day, I will still get a certificate. Even though I don't feel like using it, there is still some gain. It's like that movie situation that I mentioned. If you were told that if you stayed to the end of the movie, you would get 5,000 naira. If you were told that if you were stayed to the end of the movie and you don't like it, you can get a reward of 5,000 naira. Well, beautiful. It means there is some actual gain if you stayed to the end. So there are some situations where there might be some actual gain in terms of experience, portfolio, or something else. If you stay to the end, it's okay to make that decision also. There also might be some moral obligation which you have that you have to meet up with. By moral, I mean, for example, imagine you got married to somebody that you eventually found out that this person is not going to work out, or this thing right now is not working out. What should you do? Well, I don't know about you. Well, I think I know about you, but I don't know about the rest of my audience, the audience listening to this. But I follow Bible principles. By Bible principles, divorce is not an option, except maybe in cases of sexual immorality. Divorce is not an option. So at that point, I have a moral obligation to finish the marriage, to finish what I start. So there are certain decisions we will make that either because of the people we care about, either because of some gain that will come from finishing, or because of some moral obligation, we can choose to finish what we start. So it is not compulsory that we quit every single time. I'm sure that answers your question.
Yes, correctly. In fact, you even answered more because I was thinking of asking you the next question, that how then do we decide what to quit and what not to quit? And you gave the two examples: your education, not quitting because of your mom; moral reasons why we shouldn't quit, and also using the movie as an example, that if you know that there will be no benefit at the end, there will be no gain, there's no point sitting down there watching the entire movie. So I don't know if you have any other thing that you can add to how should we decide what to quit or when to quit. What should we quit or what shouldn't we quit on?
All right. We can work with a framework that I formulated. Just call it the ABCD that you need to look at when you want to decide to change your mind on a project or quit a project. So A, B, C, D. The A is for aspirations. Aspirations means your dream, the things you are looking forward to, like the things you've always wanted to, what you see yourself as. If at a certain point that aspiration changes, or if the thing you are doing is no longer aligning with that aspiration, then there is a good reason to change directions. So in that situation, when I wanted to quit school, I was trying to make that decision based on the fact that my aspiration, even before I got into school, my aspiration has always been to build something great. But when I got into school, because I saw this movie called 3 Idiots. I don't know if you've seen it. It's an Indian movie.
I did.
Beautiful. So the guy was a brilliant engineer, and he got into school and he was passing across this message of school doesn't have to be about cramming. Let us use it to innovate things. And I got into school, PTI, Petroleum Training Institute. That's the name of the school I went to. And I was excited that I'm going to be an engineer. I studied electrical engineering. Only for me to get into school and realize that, hey, what they are doing here is not engineering though. What they do in most schools is la cram, la pour. You have to cram everything.
What does that mean? Oh, la crème, la four. Oh, I
Yes,
get you
you
now.
have to cram everything and pour it out. That is what is required of you.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, no, I can't do this. This is not. My aspiration has been to build things. And that is when I switched paths to programming, because I already started learning how to code before I got into it. So at that point, I decided that I want to do that instead. Programming will help me build things. So my aspiration was what made me change that decision at that point. Although at the end of the day, I still finished because I had just 2 months left, but I did not go back for HND. So in a way, I did not finish what I started because my mom wanted me to go back and finish what I started. And I'm like, no, I have gotten ND. I have no business with HND. I have no business with school. Why?
Mm.
Because it no longer serves my aspiration. So that's the first one, A. The second one is B, which is your beliefs and your core values. Well, C can be covered, but I have a different thing for C. So let's say B is beliefs and core values. So fast forward to when I finished school, I started several projects. I started building an edtech startup, and I was fully involved in it. By 2018, we had this project we were working on. It was massive. We wanted to help schools be innovative, like build innovation, especially final year students. We wanted their final year projects to not just be copy and paste. Let them use it as a body to actually innovate the next thing. And I was tying that with the EdTech startup I was working on. Around March 2018, I went to Lagos. We went to some of the top tech companies in Nigeria. Microsoft Office, Facebook Office. We didn't go to Google Office, Microsoft Office, Facebook Office, then some other popular startups that are local-based tech startups. In the process of that journey and in the trip back, I started evaluating several things I was doing. And I started matching them with my core beliefs. Because the truth is, between January and March, that period, I was heavily involved in what I was building. I had no time for sleep. I had no time for my friends. I had no time, more importantly, for my spirituality. And for me, I don't know about the rest of us, but my spirituality is very important to me. It is part of my core beliefs. So I'm looking at the work I am doing. I'm looking at the approach with which I am doing it. And I'm telling myself, this is not aligning with the core beliefs. I believe that whatever I do, my spirituality should always come first. And anything I do that is tampering that, I have to put a break to it and change the way I am approaching it. So when I came back, I discussed with my partners to give me 2 weeks to think through everything. And after 2 weeks, I came and I told them we are dropping the project. This was a project where we've had our first maiden event. We had more than 300 students coming from, like the whole hall was full, a lecture theater. And we're going to do another event in August. That was March, in August. And that second event was going to be huge, more than the first one. We're expecting more than 1,000 students. We were already in the process of marketing. We were already in the process of getting investors. Everything was almost in place, actually. If we quit at that point, I would have to go back and announce to everybody, the students, the ambassadors, and the investors, that we are no longer doing that thing that we promised, that we will not finish what we start. But I still went ahead anyway. Why? Because at that point, it was hampering my beliefs and my core values. So it doesn't mean that what I was doing was wrong. It's just that the approach I was taking at that point was not serving my need. So that's the second. The third is C, capacity. Sometimes we start something, and in the process of doing that thing, we realize that, oh, really, I don't have the capacity to do it. Rather than overwhelming ourselves and eventually crashing, because at the point we would crash if we are doing something that we don't have the capacity to do. And that thing that we don't want to quit, we will inevitably quit it by force when we crash. So rather than waiting to that point, we can make that decision. And that has happened to me several times. It even happened this year where we started something called Project 59. And the goal was to get people to learn digital skills and then connect them with jobs, internship opportunities that they can use to practice that skill. The thing is, the approach we took to it was too fast. We did not take enough time to structure, and it became overwhelming. There were several internships I was handling at the same time, along with the training. Now imagine you are training people and they are working on real life projects, because all their internships were real projects. The real projects require that you deliver high quality work. They don't care if you are intern or not. And I had to fill in the gap for most parts. So imagine doing that for several brands at the same time. Assuming it was just me, it would have been easier. But having to carry everybody that long and having to fill in for their mistakes all the time, that was a capacity that I did not imagine. And I did not have, well, we had plans to onboard new team members, but we could not do that on time and we could not get the right capacity was the issue. So what did we do? At a point, we had to put a pause. So that is another reason why we can choose not to finish what we start. And the last thing is the destination. Destination can also be end goal. What is the end goal you are trying to reach? And that thing you are doing, or the approach you are trying to take, is it actually meeting that end goal? Once again, let me use that project 59 I worked on as an example. The end goal was to actually get brands with affordable workforce. We wanted to empower people to do great work. And we realized that some of the top quality work that brands need, if they were to pay the actual persons that would, imagine if you were a startup and you wanted to build a digital team, your social media manager, graphic designer, and the rest, and you were just starting, you will be paying roughly 500K a month if you were to get top quality people, a graphic designer, a social media manager, content strategist, and the rest, and you were just starting. In 3 months, you're already burning 1.5. The goal we had was to solve that problem. How do we make workforce more accessible financially? How do we decentralize and democratize the system of doing great work? Well, in the process of working with the interns, I realized that we were not meeting that goal because the interns were delivering low quality work. We're trying to save costs, but the expense was we were not meeting the goal we were trying to meet. So at that point, we had to put a pause to restructure, and the direction we wanted to go, although we're no longer going in that direction because I have new projects altogether, but the direction we wanted to shift to is, let us work with people who are already skilled, people who have already gone through the process of training and they need opportunities. Then what we will do is we'll be like an agency that can consolidate the costs by getting you several clients at the same time. So if you were a graphic designer that wanted to earn 200K per month, what we can do is we can get you 4 clients who will pay you 50K per month. Then we can now help you build a system. Since you are an experienced graphic designer, you can build a system like, for example, creating Canva templates that will make your work easier so that you are spending the same amount of time delivering the same work, but you are getting 200,000 naira at the end of the month. So that will meet our end goal more. If we had continued with the way we started, we're not meeting our end goal. So these are the 4 things we need to consider when we want to choose what to quit or when to not finish what we start. A, B, C, D. Look at your aspirations. Is it still aligning with it? Look at your beliefs and your core values. Is it still aligning? Look at your capacity. Do you still have the capacity to continue? And lastly, look at your destination / your end goal. Is this thing effective? Is this the most effective way to reach the end goal you want? Once you look through this and you are noticing that each of these areas have negative answers, you can now make that choice to not finish what you start.
All right. Thank you so much. You just give us the 4 points, which is aspiration, belief in core value, and we have capacity and destination. So for the viewers, let me just summarize this. This is going to be like you're looking at something and you want to change. Okay, look at your aspirations, look at your belief, look at your capacity, and look at the destination that you're trying to meet. That's very, very clear. Thank you, sir. And I want to ask you another question because right here I'm thinking to myself because I'm trying to look through what you're saying with my own experiences, the times that I've quitted, the times I refuse to quit, because we almost have the same kind of similar situation with quitting school or staying in school and all that. My mom was a great motivation for me staying in school and all that, and looking through the aspirations, my belief, my capacity. Even there are some job today that I won't do because of my belief system, okay? My faith in particular. So, but I'm also thinking, what should I keep in mind when I'm trying to change direction? Because I've tried to change direction so many times, but it's like the past is still holding me back. It's like today I feel like I should do this. Tomorrow I feel like I should do the next one. Tomorrow the old one keep coming and saying, "You still love me? Come and do me." So what should I keep in mind? Because I feel like there will be a lot of setbacks in our decision process and our emotion mingling with what we've decided to do. So what should I keep in mind as I'm trying to make these decisions?
All right. So let me start by mentioning that the very first thing we should keep in mind is we should at least have a sense of direction of where we are going to. Let me not say a sense of direction, a compass. Compass
Okay.
is more like you are on the ship. You may not have a very clear direction, but you have a compass that is guiding you. That's the first thing you keep in mind. Such that even when the doubts start coming up, you look at the compass and you ask yourself, is it still aligning with the compass that I am working with? For some people, that compass can be called purpose. I may not want to use the word purpose, but that compass can be called purpose. So once you have a purpose or a bigger picture in your head, you are now asking yourself, even when it gets difficult, does this still fit into the bigger picture? One thing I would say is change the plan, but not the purpose. Let me use a biblical example. When God created the first man and woman, what was the purpose? For man and woman to enjoy life, right? He did not intend for us to suffer. For those who are
At all.
religious and all that. Adam and Eve sinned, but did that change God's purpose? No. Immediately, he made arrangement for man to be redeemed. Immediately. But did the plan change? Well, the original plan was they were going to be in the Garden of Eden and be fruitful and multiply. But the plan now changed. Jesus Christ came into the plan. They were going to take a new approach now. Even with that approach, at a point, we don't know how he was going to do it initially, but the Israelites were in the picture. If they had choose to be faithful, the Messiah would have still come, but the Israelites were in the picture. But at the point, the plan changed. But did the purpose ever change? Not at all. So it's the same thing for us. Let me bring it down to a creative example. So I have several persons that I have mentored and coached. I remember there was one person, Mary. I hope she gets to listen to this. I like sharing her story. I remember at a point that Mary was so frustrated. She was learning UI UX design and she's still on the career path, thankfully. But at a point, she was so frustrated at her progress, at how things were going. It wasn't working. She just finished school back then. And she came to me one day and she was like, I want to quit all of this. I want to go and learn a practical skill like hairdressing. I just want to go and learn something I can see with my hands and I know that it will work and I will get money. So imagine that she wants to quit and she wants to switch to hairdressing.
Oh.
But was that the purpose of why she started? Looking back now, she has gained more clarity on her purpose. And one of the purpose she has is that she wants to inspire our generation. She wants to be able to be an inspiration, a good example to our generation. And if you look back to that decision she was trying to make, it will not fit the purpose that she wants to achieve. She's no longer aligning. I'm not saying hairdressing is bad, but that wasn't the purpose for why she started UI UX design. So she eventually continued. She stuck to the purpose. So it's the same thing with us. There will be times when we would want to change something. Sometimes it's okay to change. Sometimes we can choose to stay. If we choose to change, let us change to something that still fits into the purpose of why we are doing what we want to do. In my own case, when I quit, what I was building in 2018, the purpose of why I started my EdTech startup was to help people. When I choose to quit, that purpose was still intact. I wanted to help people. And I realized that the direction I was going was making me lose myself and lose my sexuality. And it would not be the best way to help. And when I choose to do something else, it was still in that direction of helping people. So you are definitely not going to quit from being a designer to be an arm robber or to be something that is outside the purpose. So keep the purpose in mind. That's one thing I should mention. Of course, there are many other things. You should also remember that when, like I mentioned earlier on, if something is not working, it may not necessarily mean that you might have to get it through the ABC. You should keep in mind that whatever project you start, at a certain point, there will be doubts. There will be setbacks no matter the project you start. So simply deciding to quit something because it's not working or because there are setbacks is not the thing you should keep in mind. So keep in mind that there will always be setbacks no matter what you choose. So the question is, what will keep you going in that new decision or in that old decision, even with the setback? That is the thing you will not keep in mind.
Yeah, you're very correct, because I'm thinking in my head now, because you keep mentioning this purpose and you're really adding a lot to what I know about purpose. And I'm still thinking maybe there are other things you really want to talk about purpose in particular, instead of citing you talked about Mary who wanted to quit, and she looking back and see if it aligns with her purpose, and she knowing that she wants to be a good example for her generation. I don't know, but because I'm thinking through here, is there any other thing that people really need to understand about purpose? Because I think that is one thing that makes us change direction, pivot to something different. Because there are days where I feel like this is the thing I should be doing. The next day I feel like this is the thing I should be doing. And I know this whole discussion is about knowing when to quit a thing, when to stick. So what's purpose like? I want you to really dive deep into purpose.
So before I answer, let me just bring out a phrase from your question, just as a thought. Not necessarily to criticize the way you present it. I just want to use it as a opportunity to think in on that message.
Okay.
Feeling is not purpose. So if you wake up one morning and you feel like changing your mind, that is not purpose. That is feeling.
Okay.
So feeling comes and it goes.
That's true.
So if at any point you are trying to change direction because you feel like you want to start something new, you have to go back and tell yourself that this is a feeling. So what I usually do is, whatever decision I make at any point, I write it down, and I write all the reasons I am making that decision. I write down pros and I write cons.
I do that a lot.
Exactly.
Sometimes I think this is just common to me. I never, man, please just continue.
Yeah, so I write out Bible principles and I write out a lot of. So anytime I wake up one morning and I'm feeling like, I will go and open the book. I will look at what is written there. What is written there is not matching my feeling, but I'm looking at it and saying, what is written here, is it still correct? If the answer is yes, then let's leave the feeling first. So it's the same thing with marriage. You will wake up one morning and that beautiful woman that you're falling in love with, all of a sudden, you will start thinking, why is he snoring so loud? My goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Who is this human that is sleeping next to me? The feeling changes. So if a person were to go and build their marriage based on feeling, that marriage is going to fail.
I think, let me just come in here. I think what we sometimes do here is like we are documenting our reasoning. Because I feel like the mind has... You talked about biases not quite long, and I feel like there is this a lot of thoughts that comes to our mind to waive our decision. And if we already have a thought out sequence of why we should continue, why we shouldn't, there are moments where feelings comes to overwhelm us. But if we have a written down thought of any time that we decided, okay, I'm going to stick with this, every time those feelings come, if we can go back and look at those ideas that we've written down, they help to chase off those feelings because they become like the roadmap. I do this all the time because there are times where I will have a better thought to stick to a theme and I just write it down, because there are days where I will feel like doing something else and that thought, that chain of thoughts will not even come around. But because I have my notepad is always a good place where I write, because I already have thoughts that I've written down, good points, why I should stick, why I should continue. So going back to look at them, I'm like, okay, nice. I've even heard of married couples who sometimes go back and watch their wedding video just to remind themselves of how they started. Maybe look back on pictures they took years back just to refresh their memory. It's like having an archive of things that remind you to keep going.
Beautiful. I like the way you restate that in a different way. And I think I will conclude that part there so I can move to the actual question you asked. Purpose, understanding purpose. So I mentioned earlier that I don't usually use the word purpose. Is it okay if I go on?
Yes.
So I don't usually use the word purpose because people misconstrue it. But purpose is actually the right word, just that we have too many meanings to it. So there's a popular notion that purpose is something that from birth it was written, and there's a purpose. There's a reason why you were born, and you have to find that reason why you were born. It's like it was already predestined. I don't believe in predestination. I believe in choice a lot. So
Yeah, choice.
So and that idea also holds some people back because they might be doing something useful, but they are thinking that they've not found their purpose, probably because that thing they are doing is not feeling like it. So what should you do instead? There's a popular quote. I can't remember who said it, but I think Jordan Peterson actually said something similar. But I don't know the source, but Jordan Peterson said something similar. And he said, stop chasing purpose. Just be useful. Be useful. That is the important thing. So you see, let me use an illustration again. Sorry, I'm always using biblical illustration.
Please do.
So there's an illustration of the talent. A man who wanted to travel and he caught 3 servants. He gave one 5 talents, one 3 talents. And what did he give the last? I think 1 talent. There were 2 different variants of that illustration.
Yeah.
When he gave them talents, did he tell them what to do with it? Did he give them a written down purpose that this talent I am giving you, go and use it to start a business, or go and use it to buy a laptop so you can start doing graphic design and be doing Jerusalem flyer? It did not give them a particular written or predefined purpose. He only gave them talents. And the goal was go and be useful with your talents. First one came back, it was useful, he multiplied it. The third one, what was the challenge with the third one? The third one wasn't useful. The master said to him that at least you could have taken the talent and go and deposited it in the bank. It would have at least been useful. So you see, challenge. Like some people are complaining about purpose and they're like that last person, like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do because I feel like I haven't found my purpose. And the master, like, you should have at least been useful. Like, instead of you waiting for all of you. So that's the idea. We have to first of all find our talents, find your strength. What are you good at? As you are growing, there will be more things you would have more strength in. But start with something that you can actually do, and then be useful. Do something useful for people. In the process of doing something useful for people and trying to help people, you will discover things that you like more. You will discover things that you are more efficient at, and you will gradually start to narrow down, until you now find that thing that you now say, yes, this is where I am supposed to be. But even if you find that thing, the mindset you should have is, I have finally found something that I want to continue being useful at. This is the area I want to choose, because it's a choice. This is the area I want to choose to be useful. And you continue in that aspect. And that is our purpose. You look at your strengths. And even if you've not found all your strengths to be useful, Going back to Mary's example, we being an hairdresser, given the talents that she has, because she did not have one talent, she had maybe 3 or 5 talents. Given the talents that she had, she finished from computer science. She's very tech savvy. She has the idea and she has good design eye. Given the talent that she has, will being an hairdresser be the most useful way to use those 5 talents she has? The answer is no. So the question we should be asking ourselves is, how can I be useful? And which direction will help me be the most useful? That will help us. Go on.
Yeah, I really like the way you shaped this whole thing. Just be useful. I think I had this idea a long time ago from, I think I met him as a motivational speaker. That's Tom Bill, who said that purpose is something you build, is something you decide upon and pursue with force and determination, and until you can serve people and serve yourself. Just pick a skill that you can use to serve people. And I think I made a podcast not quite long. You can go to my playlist. You see, I'm saying this to my viewer here, that says finding your purpose. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. There are skill sets that you've already built up over time that when you look back, you're like, okay, I can do this, I can do that. And you start connecting the dot. You see that you know how to design, you know how to edit video. Now you're thinking of content creation. You have a great skill set that can help you do that and maybe have impact with a lot of people. So I really like the way that, because even one of my struggle, not really currently because I had the insight not quite long, that you can actually have more than one talent and you can actually succeed at them, because he who has given the talent also gives the enablement. So it just depends on. So instead of fighting the thought of I don't know what I should be doing, you should be concentrating on how can I be useful with these skills that I have. And as you do that, you end up having more skills, more skill sets, and more wisdom to be able to implement all that you have been given. So I really thank you for that. But I'm also thinking here, because the whole podcast that we're making right now is about not finishing what you started. So how do people practically do this?
Beautiful. So I like that thought you mentioned about being multi-talented. I think probably we should do another podcast on that. There's one on Curatorium where Adora and Salem did on that. So I think we want to do more on that. What you said is actually the right part. Let me also quickly add to that, just to circle back, and I'll use that to segue into this question. So once you've now found your usefulness, the purpose, the question is, when should you now choose to change direction? Or how do you use that information to change direction? The question you now need to ask yourself is, what decisions will help me be more useful? What direction helps me be more useful? So you can already be doing something useful. You can be doing that already. But at a certain point, you now need to niche down, or maybe you apply a different principle that will help you be more useful, especially when you start discovering your strengths more and more. So in my own case, I've had several titles. I've been a programmer, I've been a designer, I've done package and product design, I've been a project manager, I've been a UI UX, I've written, like, different things I've done. And I've mostly been changing paths, because in the process of being useful in one area, I discover more ways, or a more effective way I can be useful that aligns more with my strengths. So I'm gradually dropping things that I don't have full strength in, and narrowing it more to things that I have full strength in, so I can be more useful. So that is what will help us change directions when we're thinking about, okay, this thing I have, because you can be actually doing things that are useful. If you tell yourself that, hey, I'm not going to change direction because what I'm doing is useful already, well, you might be missing out on your true potentials. Of course, like I mentioned, there are other things you can evaluate, like A, B, C, D, and the rest.
Yeah.
But on one hand, when you are doing something useful, stay with it, especially if it's useful. On the other hand, if you find more strengths that you have, or that thing that you are doing, you feel you can still narrow it down more to be more useful, don't be afraid to adjust your direction. Don't feel like you've started, you have to finish it. That's the whole point of this podcast. So, how do you do that practically? Number one,
Yeah, that's a
you
question.
have to, yes. So you have to, I think before this step I'm mentioning is supposed to be the first, but people usually do it at the last. That's because they did not plan to pivot or change direction in the first place. So what I'm saying is, even if you're not planning to change direction right now, and you want to start a new project, the first thing you should keep in mind, or you should put practically in place, is plan for your pivot, plan for your changing, let your plans be agile, be open to change. Tell yourself that you are starting something new, but you are allowed to change it. It will really help you, because one of the things that holds us back from starting, and I like that we're doing this podcast on the execution end. That is why I want to do this here. Execution, what holds us back from executing? One of the things that holds us back from executing is that idea that this decision that I'm about to execute, it will be permanent. So I have to make it perfect, and we delay. But when we remind ourselves that this thing I want to execute, I am allowed to change my mind. I don't have to finish what I start. You now give yourself the permission to start with whatever information you have, knowing that you would change as you keep going along. Execution becomes faster. So from the very start, we should plan for our pivot. We should remind ourselves that we will change in the future. Like in the case of Project 59, if I had planned for the pivot very early, I did to some extent plan for it, because from past experience, I knew that things might change, but I didn't plan for it so fully. When I did, in a way, because one of the things I did was we made all the contracts short-term contracts, 3 months contract, nothing more. So we were able to scale through because we planned from the beginning that in case we're going to change direction, especially since this is a beta phase, let's do things in such a way that allows us to easily change. It is those structures that will help you practically change your mind when it is now time for you to change your mind. So we did short-term contract. What else did we do? We did not necessarily put ourselves on social media like that, because we went ahead. We did not hold ourselves from starting, but there are some things that were not finalized that we just allowed. We did a wait list. We did several other things with the idea of, okay, in 6 months' time, we might adjust the roadmap for this. So let's do it this way for now. So plan for the pivot very early. The second thing is, when it's now time for the pivot, you should allow space to happen. That's the very first step. Like I mentioned, this other first step I mentioned, people usually do it at the end. Once they realize that, hey, it's time to change. But they should actually do that from the beginning anyway. But let's say it's now time to actually change. The first practical step is allow space to happen. Some of the best ideas or clarity you would have, or even that decision to change your mind, will come from space. The reason why I was able to quit what I was doing in 2018 was because I had that journey, I had that trip. And in between the 6 hours drive from Lagos back to Warri, I was thinking through a lot of things. Space happened. I removed myself from the environment and I could see clearer. So there's a quote from Albert Einstein that says, you cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created that problem in the first place. Now, there's a version 2 of that quote that goes on to say that you cannot solve a problem if you are still in the environment, whether physical or mental, that created that problem. So
That's
we have
powerful.
to pull out of the environment. Like another way to illustrate it is, when you are on planet Earth, when you are inside, you don't know that the Earth is round. It's only when you go into space, and pun intended, it's only when you go into space that is when you see that the Earth is round. So sometimes we might need to take a break. that job that we are thinking that is draining us. We may not have thought about quitting the job yet, but we know it's draining us. But we've not gotten to that point where, hey, I need to change direction. What else
Yeah.
is take a 1 week break from that work, go somewhere else. That is the start. Or it could be that project you are working on. What's the project? Travel, read a book, have fresh ideas, go somewhere else. Don't even work. Have space. That space is what now gives you the clarity to decide if you want to change your mind or if you would continue. You cannot change your mind when you are still doing that thing that you want to change your mind. So even if you might brief as a 1 week break, take space, allow space to happen. The third thing is prototype your leap. So I got this from a book by Paul Millard. The title of the book is The Pathless Path. He talked about how he switched his career to being a freelancer. He had a full-time 9-to-5 job and he had to make the decision to quit. It was a really high-paying job. How did it change direction? The wrong idea people have is that when you want to make a change in your career, you have to take a leap of faith. And leap of faith means you wake up one morning and you quit everything. It is not always the case. Sometimes it is the case, but it is not always the case. In the book, Paul mentioned that you should prototype your leap. Prototype means start testing out that leap gradually. Don't make a huge leap. Instead, make smaller leaps. Somebody that wants to quit his job, and I gave this advice to somebody last week. She's doing an NGO, and she's trying to ask, like, should she quit a full-time job to focus on NGO? And I was like, no, get traction with your NGO. It's not an NGO anyway, it's a social enterprise, so they're allowed to make profit. So I told her, get traction with your NGO. Let your job be sustaining you. Use that to finance your projects. And once your social enterprise project is stable enough, you can now switch gradually. Don't wake up one day and decide you are going to quit your job. One of the things that they don't tell us when they talk about success story, many of the successful people you know or you've read their story, they did not come and start that idea overnight. Steve Jobs had a full-time job before he started Apple.
That's so true.
In the Nigeria tech ecosystem, many of them, you hear former GT Bank worker started. People usually dismiss that other part of the information, former GT Bank worker. Former GT Bank worker was what helped them build that startup that they changed to. They did not just true. So you have to prototype your leap. In my own case, anytime I want to start a new idea, I send out a wait list. I send out a survey. I see how many people respond to it. I get actual data that this new thing I want to try will work. And when I see that it will work, I gradually start shooting out offers. When I see people are receptive to the offers and they are paying for it, I can now stop whatever I was doing and switch to that new thing that I want to work on. The same thing, it might not be a huge career decision. Maybe you want to start a podcast, for example. Or maybe, I can't think of any small example right now. But whatever small example, you want to drop one thing so you can favor another thing. That second thing you want to favor, start testing it out bit by bit.
Okay.
Don't wait till you quit one morning and then you go all into that other one. While you are still doing the other thing you are doing, test out this new one bit by bit. And then finally, when you are ready, take the leap. So there are several other points. Let me just rush through maybe 2 more.
Okay.
The fourth one is just more of the mindset. Give yourself the permission to quit. Like give yourself the permission to start over again, because you can be in the process of making that decision, but you are feeling guilty.
Yes. Because I'm already thinking like there are things that are holding people back, of which personally I've experienced. There are things. So just make your last point, then I'll ask you this ultimate question, because from the beginning of this podcast, that has been the why is it hard? Why is it hard? What's that? What are those thoughts that are holding us back, that are making us to feel like if I quit this thing, it's like I'm offending the whole world. I'm offending somebody. My life is no longer the same. What are those things that are making it so hard for us to quit?
Hmm. I like that question. Am I allowed to finish the last point?
Yes, please.
All right. So the last thing, and I think this fifth point is really important. It's a topic of its own. One of the regrets I've had from over 12 years of career and changing my mind a lot is that during the process of doing all this, I barely have tangible progress to show for it. I've made progress, but tangible, like you can hold it, is not there. So the fifth thing you should do is whenever you want to quit, or when you are in the middle of doing something that you know eventually you will change your mind on, that there's a possibility of doing so, even though you've not thought about it yet, start building tangible progress that will make it easy for you to start over again when it's time to start. For example, if you want to quit school, school can give you some resources you can use to start. My school then had constant light. I had access to some professional bodies. I could network. So what I did is in that process, I started networking. I started reaching out to some organization and I did some other speaking events and I built relationships, and those relationships helped me start what I was going to start after I finished school. But one of the things that we can also do, which is very important, is document your journey such that by the time you are ready to change your mind to something else, you already have an audience that is following you. You are no longer starting your page again from 0 followers. You are a graphic designer. You have built your brand to 5,000 followers. At that point, you decide you want to go into motion graphics. You still have 5,000 followers. You go into motion graphics. By the time you get to 10,000 followers, you change your mind again. You decide that no, you want to go into public speaking. You still have your followers. I don't know if you know Chris Do, and I don't know if the audience who is listening also know Chris Do. So Chris Do is popular in the creative space.
Yeah, Chris Doe. Very
Beautiful.
popular.
So if you notice, Chris Do's recent posts, he has changed direction up to 3 times. From when he started, he had a partner. They were working on Blind. From Blind, they moved to the Future. From the Future, he started building his own personal brand on Chris Do. From building his personal brand on Chris Do and launching workshop for creatives, he started launching workshop for business owners. And now from launching workshop for business owners, he's now doing something entirely different with his personal brand. But in all of this, what did he consistently have? He consistently had his community. He consistently had his followings. Anytime he changed direction, he was not starting over again from scratch. He had built enough tangible progress so that when it was time to go into a new direction, he has something to build with. So whatever you are working on right now, or whatever you are doing, make sure you are building tangible progress with it. Document it. Show up on Instagram. Write a Medium article. Make sure there is proof that you actually did something, even if you did change your mind eventually on that thing. And those are the 5 things you should do practically when you want to change direction. Number 1, plan ahead. Number 2, allow space to happen. Number 3, prototype the leap. Number 4, give yourself permission. And number 5, make sure you build tangible progress, irrespective of which decision you are taking. So let's go to that number 4. How do you give yourself permission? That's the question you're asking.
The question I'm asking is, why is it so hard to quit?
Basically, making decisions like this is always hard. When you are always making a decision that involves shame, that involves going against the status quo, there's always difficulty. But any sort of change at all is always hard. Even if you are not changing direction, even if you are starting something new, like you want to start exercising, it's always hard. But let me isolate 3 things. Number 1, reputation. People are so scared when it comes to reputation. When I wanted to quit that project I was working on in 2018, the main thing at the top of my mind and at the top of my partners, because I had several partners, was, but we already announced this event to people. We already reached out to investors. Some of them have even contributed their money. What reputation would we now have if we were to go back to them and tell them that we are dropping it? Reputation. People are afraid of what other people will think or how we affect their reputation. The solution to that is, what I usually always keep in mind is something in UI UX design. I learned as a UX principal. It's called the peak end rule. It's still a heuristics, like halfway bias. Halfway bias is a heuristic, but this one is more like a positive way to reframe your mind. The peak end rule states that
End roll. Okay.
yes, people will remember more of the highest point at your interaction with them and the ending. Those are the two important moments they will remember. Every other moment will be blurry in their mind. So your goal, whether you are doing a website or any project, or even a movie use this more. People remember more how a movie ended, and they remember the important moment, that important scene that was the climax of the movie. That is the one they remember more, not the in-between dialogue.
That's true.
Good. So that's where the principle comes from. The goal is, when you keep that in mind, see your life like a movie. See your life like a book, a story that you are writing. The point that you choose to change direction is not the end of your chapter. Neither is it the climatic part of your chapter. It will only be the climatic part if you choose to stop writing. But as long as you continue writing your story, you will write a new chapter. You will do new things, and those new things will be the things that will build your reputation. Even the Bible says so. The way a matter ends is better than the way it began. That is in Ecclesiastes. Always focus on how your story will end. You are the one that is writing the story. So it doesn't matter how people view you at that particular point. If 5 years from now you have a better story to tell, that is a new story that they will remember. That's just it. That's for reputation. And because of time, I would have wanted to go more on that, but because of time, let me move on to the next one. The second thing is, which is the obvious thing we started with, time and resource put in. People are afraid of losing that, the time and resource. Yeah,
That's
you've already invested.
really a big point there.
Because all the projects I think of, months has been lost, and resources, finance went. But here's the thing. I have one regret in all of that. If I have had this mindset now that I have now, 5 years ago, my career, even 10 years ago, my career would be at a whole different level right now. Like, I would have gone really far. Why? Because I spent so much time agonizing over changing a decision or dropping something that wasn't working. That went into months. That translated into months that I should have used to start something new very, very quickly. So right now, I have learned how to pivot very quickly. Immediately, I'm ending the decision. I'm not romanticizing the old decision. So we should remember that resource that is gone is gone. The time that is gone is gone. You will lose more time by staying on that project. And here's the worst part. People don't know this. Well, people know this, but they don't see it at that point when they are agonizing over what they are growing. You will eventually quit that project.
Whoa.
Yes, especially if it's not just something that comes from feeling. For example, if you are doing a job that is draining you, you are doing a 9 to 5 that is draining you, you don't get out. Sorry for using pidgin, but I'm hoping most of you don't get out. We crash. Two things will happen. And here's the interesting thing. People shoot themselves in the shoe by not knowing this. If you don't quit that job, the job will quit you. Your boss will not keep you forever. That project that you are thinking, because most of us will be freelancers, that project that you are thinking that if you stop working on it, how will the client be able to survive? How will your audience be able to move on? They will move on. And at a point, because you are not passionately invested in that project, it will start showing. The quality of your work will start dropping. And that client or that project you are holding on to is your audience that will now start coming back and attacking you. The client will be the one to start attacking you. And that's what I'm facing right now. Right now, I'm in the middle of transitioning, and I'm dropping old projects, and I'm eventually trying to get new persons that will handle those projects. But it's not going to be a perfect process. In the process of trying to train new persons to be able to handle the project, um, several things, the quality is reducing and the client is complaining. But the truth is, at the capacity I was working, even before we started bringing people in, before I started making that decision that, hey, I need to drop this and bring someone new in, the quality was already dropping. So it is inevitable. When we remind ourselves that it is inevitable that that project, we would quit it, we would eventually change direction, it is better to do it earlier. If it is inevitable that something will end it earlier and pivot quickly. Don't dread the idea. If something will inevitably happen, accept it early and it will save you a lot of time. Don't think about what has been lost already. Think about what will be lost if you continue. That is the important part. And then lastly, uncertainty. People are afraid of the unknown. If you want to quit something, the question is, what will I do next? What is the new thing I will replace this with? When I wanted to quit my career in 2018, I had no clue, no idea, because I had focused my entire life at that point trying to build a tech startup, and I wanted to be a tech founder. But if I was going to quit that, what will I do with my life instead? I had no idea how to be a freelancer. I wasn't building my portfolio for the sake of being a freelancer. I don't know how to get clients directly because I was my own client building my own projects. I had to learn everything from scratch. But at that point, I was uncertain about how it will look like. People see that uncertainty and they are scared. But that uncertainty also helps us understand that the possibilities of what is new are endless. It is only when you look back you will be able to connect the thought. Like, because if we were to think back 10 years ago, what you are doing now and the things you know now, would you have imagined you would have known them 10 years ago?
10 years ago? Where was I 10 years ago? It has no relationship with what I'm even doing now. There's no relationship. Like, I don't think I would. Oh my goodness. It's a huge transformation, I must tell you.
Beautiful. The thing is, when we choose to quit something old, we automatically create space for several new things. The possibility becomes endless. So instead of seeing it as uncertainty, we should see it as possibilities. That blank space should not be met with confusion. The blank space should be met with joy. Yay, I have a blank space. I am blank. That means I can now start looking for new things to fill in this blank space. So those are the three things. Okay, don't lose that thought. Say.
Yeah, I think at this point, I have to share my own personal experience because I've been thinking of, should I continue with this podcasting? Because the podcasting has been in my mind and my thoughts. That is something I would like to have because I've seen myself many times just talking to my recorder on my phone and just pouring out ideas. And the qualities aren't great for me to upload on internet. And I've been thinking of, okay, I think I communicate better when I talk to the mic than when I write or when I make a carousel, because the chain of thoughts just keep aligning, and I like the way I think, at least to some degree. And on the other side, I'm a freelancer, somebody who likes to teach graphic design. Now I'm even more interested in teaching Canva. And at one point, I'm thinking, should I pursue this part of content creation, having a podcast where my natural wealth of communication will just show up, or I should continue probably making courses, taking online gigs. But I've come to realize that there are times where these things makes you feel like you are changing purpose, though purpose do not change. And recently I've discovered that even as much as I want to pursue this part of podcasting whereby I don't see any possible not like I don't see any possible future, like before I will start making money from this, it's going to like take a long time. And my initial thought of making this whole thing is not really for me to make money. Even to this point of me recording this podcast with you, it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with personal branding and things I love. Then on the other side, whereby I'm thinking of, oh, I need to make money. My freelancing is there. So for me, it's hard to quit when there is no sustainability. When there is nothing to keep your body and soul alive. And just yesterday, I had an idea of how I can do these two things at the same time. Because you talked about the talent, the servants having 2 talents from 3. So the reason why I'm saying this is because you talked about how it's hard to quit, but you have to learn to figure things out as you go. Because what you have been doing, if you look back carefully, you will discover that you've changed over time. You've changed a lot of things. So even at this moment of you maybe struggling with 2 options, you have to figure it out. You have to sit yourself down and you are going to have different ideas. Test them out. Don't dismiss any idea. I have tried a lot of stuff in trying to come up with ways that I can make impact with content. I've tried AI. I've tried ChatGPT using content. I've tried so many things until I came to the point of I think podcasting will do better. So the podcasting idea is not even the first idea I had. So if we look back, you discover that you've been changing all this time. And like you said, one thing I've really picked from what you've been saying is that people will remember the peak point and the ending. Everything else, they'll throw it away. So we should be more focused on making the ending beautiful. And before you get to the ending, there will be a lot of changes. And I think that really hit hard for me, and I really want to thank you on that. I don't know if you have any other thing to share on that.
Beautiful. So I like that you share this experience, and I will use it as a way to conclude because we are out of time right now. And I want to conclude by giving a counter advice to the entire advice that I've been giving on this podcast. Finish what you start. Finish.
That sounds like what you were saying.
It's like we went through all this process just to get to this end, and I'm not telling you like, okay, finish what you start. So yes, what I mean. And this will help us. Sometimes we are trying to quit things that are not important. So the idea of finishing what you don't have to finish what you start. It's not one that is promoting anytime you are afraid of something or anytime that something is not working, drop it and change direction. Sometimes what we really need to address is what are we actually doing? Once we get very clearly what we are doing, we can now decide if we are continuing or if we finished it. In your own case, I would assume that you started this podcast because you said you had several options. So you wanted to explore podcasting as one of the options, right?
Yes.
So the question you should ask yourself is, and you don't need to answer it right now, is, have you explored that goal you started out with? You want to explore the option of podcast. Have you explored the goal fully? Have you done it from the start to the finish? Because it's the challenge with when
Can you take that again?
That goal of exploring this option of a podcast, are you done with exploring it? So when I say done
at
with
this
exploring
point,
okay, go on. What do you want to say?
At this point, I would say no, because okay, now let me give you an example. We are doing this audio podcasting, right? Now in my head, what I really want is good visual, okay? With camera setup, we see face to face, we go live, we discuss these things. I have well-written article that I can present and systematically share knowledge and the struggles that I have personally faced and help somebody to overcome. Because I think I've not finished exploring it. This is just the beginning for me.
So beautiful. So this is just the beginning for all this. So the challenge we have most times is the way we frame what we are working on. If you don't frame it the right way, it's easy to quit. If you start a podcast and you say, I want to start a podcast so that I can have an extra source of income, a passive source of income, you can easily quit that goal because 6 months in, you are not getting extra income. It means you have to quit it. But if you frame the goal differently,
yes,
I want to start a podcast so I can explore different way I can express myself, then it's different. Every time you do a new podcast, you are trying something new. What new thing can I do in my next podcast so that I can explore the different ways I can express myself? The goal continues. So when we think about it that way, because most of the things we embark on, we don't even make enough progress in it to even quit it. There's a Bible verse that says, allow endurance to finish its work, its training. That means that sometimes we're in the middle of something that is not working and we're in a hurry to, I want this to end. But the lessons we're supposed to learn, the new person we're supposed to be molded into because of that thing that we're going through, it has not completed its training and we're in a hurry to quit it. So the reason I say that is all the projects I have quit, they have made me who I am because I made tangible progress with them. From starting my ed tech, I became a better business person. From exploring being a freelancer and all the different freelance roles I had, I became a better marketer and a better freelancer. Project 59 we did this year, I have been doing marketing for 3 years. More than 3 years, but let's say around 3 years. What I learned within 3 months of working on Project 59, within 3 months is far more than what I have learned within 3 years. Because I was implementing at a different scale. So imagine if I had quit at the point where a very early stage when things was not working. I already saw that, this is going to be overwhelming. And after the first month, in the middle of the training, I'm like, see, let's drop this. And we're not doing it again. My decision was, let's finish a batch. At least this batch is 6 months, right? Good, let's finish a batch. Let me gain experience from this first batch, and then I will drop the batch. Let the process of doing this let me gain from it. So it's the same thing. When we start a new podcast, or when we start something new, it is not the podcast that is the end goal. When we start a new project, it is not the project itself that is the end goal. It's the experience we get from it.
The transformation.
The transformation, beautiful. In the future, you will now start new projects. It will now be all these small skills you pick up from projects that you quit before. That you will use to build. Yes, that you will use to build those new projects you are working on. But you can't develop those skills in a solid way if you stop too prematurely. So right now for your podcast, I'm not even saying you should continue or you should not continue. You can quit if you want, especially if you look at the 4 ABCD. To be honest, if I look at the ABCD, I don't feel like you should quit anything. It depends on you. You know your aspiration. Does it affect your beliefs? You decide that. Capacity is the time you are using to do the podcast. Is it affecting you doing other things? Do you have the capacity in terms of time and resources to do it? Will focusing on the podcast take away your focus from other things and the time you need to do that? It's up to you to decide. The end goal, is it meeting your real end goal? It's up to you to decide. But whether you quit or you don't quit, I don't feel like you've promoted this podcast enough. I don't feel like you've done a video podcast. I don't feel like you've explored all the different formats of podcasts you can do.
Exactly the point.
To even decide to quit. Because what are you quitting? You've not started and you are quitting. So build like if you want to fail with your full shares. If you want to quit something, quit it with your full shares. Build a community. Let there be 100 persons that have given you their email. That anytime there's a podcast, I will send you my podcast. Go through the process and see what it means to market to get those 100 persons. Get that marketing experience. Then when you now want to quit, no problem. You can send those 100 people emails like, Alpha, I'm quitting this thing. No. But do you have 100 people to quit, to send emails that you are quitting? Just wait. That's the question. Who are you? Most people don't even know this podcast to even know that you've quit. That's the thing.
That's
You're
the
the only
point.
so
So
if you
in somebody's head, it's like, I've done a lot, but nobody even notices. I think there's somebody on the internet, I can't really remember his name, and he said, if you're starting out, don't think about these many people. Don't think about how your Instagram carousel front page look. Don't think about this color, brand identity, and all of that. He said, just start, because right now, nobody even knows you. Like, nobody even care how your content look. You think the whole world is watching you, but really you're the only person who goes to your profile and visits it like 10 times, 100 times in the day. The only person who sees your post only views it once and don't even care. Not even your best friend. And he said, forget about all these things and just do the work. Over time, you start thinking of, okay, let me make this thing look a little bit nicer. But the core content that you're putting out there should be like, and I think that is one thing that really motivated me in starting this podcast, because I remember the very first episode. Could you believe that I didn't even mention my name? I didn't tell people who is talking. Like, at least that should be the least thing. But because I've come to the point that at that point people really didn't know me, and at that point I was talking as if I was talking to a friend who I really don't care introducing myself to again. Because I've always believed that if you really want to do anything, just start. There are people you might be looking up to, like, okay, I want to make content, for example. I want to make a podcast. Chris Do does podcast. How does it start? And you start thinking of all these small things. They won't come natural to you because you are not Chris Do. You've not spent years. You've not made the mistake of knowing that, oh, you're supposed to mention your name first, then you forgot somehow. Like, my first episode wasn't about, I never thought one day that I'll be doing, we are using a software right now. You are somewhere and we're doing this online. I never thought, okay, I'll have to invite somebody that I have to make podcasts online. It was just me thinking of, I just want to express myself. And I know one day I'm thinking of setting up maybe a background that I will invite guests and I will be doing the video side of things. I never thought of that. But if I had looked to people, like the people I look up to now in terms of podcasting, I would have been overwhelmed. I would have been thinking of getting gears and gadgets that I do not have the money to pay for right now. So I think people should stop looking at the 1,000 of people and just start with what they have right now to do at least the least best that they can do. And over time, you'll see themselves progressing into becoming a better version at doing that thing.
Beautiful. You just reminded me that I have an exact video on that said exactly what you just said. But I have procrastinated posting it for a long time. The idea that, and the funny thing is, I know how to help my clients, but I don't know how to help them. I tell my clients this a lot. All those things you are trying to do for your content, you want to get perfect thing, this and that. Who are you doing all these ones for? You don't have followers and you are trying to to do all these things for your content. Get to your first 100 videos and don't worry about what you would say or how you would say it and the rest. And that's the goal. But anyway, that's a beautiful thought. And let me conclude what I was trying to say. We want to do something long enough such that when it's time to quit, that quitting is justified. Although it's not in all cases, but sometimes it's okay to change your mind on certain things even before you put it out there. But sometimes put yourself out there so you can actually gain the experience that comes with putting yourself out there before you actually do the quitting. So finish what you start. Finish what you start. But to conclude, If it just so happens that at any point in time, you want to make that decision to not finish what you start, remember everything we discussed on this podcast. Give yourself the permission to not finish what you start. Why? Because you don't have to finish what you start all the time.
Yes. So thank you so much for joining us again. That's Paul Princewill and myself, Godswill Ashebinoma. Thank you all for listening. And so finally, Paul, how can people meet you online? How can our viewers connect with you?
Okay, so hopefully when this podcast is made, I would shoot it to my Instagram, and also my Instagram will be on your page. There will be a collabo request. But on Instagram, you can find me on Mr. Paul Princewill. So it's a new account. Don't expect anything special, but just stay there. You will be able to follow along with my journey. So Mr. Paul Princewill, just my name. Just put a Mr. at the top. That is on Instagram.
All right, so I'll put the link in the description for our viewers to click and connect with you. So thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, don't quit. Focus on your goal. You can always change the plan, but not the goal. Thank you.
Are you sure that's a good ending for this? Because we just advise people to quit. So you people should quit. So don't listen to don't quit. Quit if you want to quit. You have to quit.
Oh my God.
Anyway, thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
This is Paul Princewill, and this is the Execution Edge podcast.